I was personally dragged into the whistleblowing about the sexual abuse, trafficking of vulnerable women at the nonprofit organization with a false accusation by the female central to my story. I had support from some famous people like
One man told me about being beaten by the police and left permanently disabled because of a woman's false allegation.
I'm not sitting here trying to say, oh, you need to love your neighbor, you need to love people, and that'd be great, yeah. I'm just saying that the hatred that people are feeling for the other side is engineered. It is not real, and it's very difficult for people to admit that I have been manipulated. And I can tell you, as the PSYOPs dude, the mind control guy, whatever you want to call it, I'm as vulnerable as everyone else. I don't have some you don't get a vaccine. If you learn a certain amount, you don't get immune to manipulation. I buy this watch I'm wearing came from an Instagram ad. So I'm not immune to any of this stuff. And the moment that you think, oh, not me, I'm not immune to that, you become the most vulnerable person in the room. It's like you're going into Best Buy and you get a laptop and you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that antivirus software. I don't get viruses on my computers. You become vulnerable because you think you are invulnerable. So realizing that all of us can be manipulated and then coming to terms with it's very difficult to do, to say I've been lied to, I've been manipulated.
Hello, it's December 2025. Now this video is inspired by an event that took place, I believe it was in November 2025, and there has been a fairly recent update to this event. Now this event has to do with a former female DoorDash delivery person, and I'm going to quickly go over this story in case you've never heard of it before. And my point is not going to be so much about the story itself, but more of an observation that others have noticed before this, and this just simply takes it to the next level. Now, I'm going to be telling this story very quickly from this former female's perspective. So she had to pick up an order of food that was placed by some guy at a house. And the instructions were very, very clear to leave the food outside on the doorstep. And that was it. That's all she had to do. She claims when she arrived, the door was wide open, the lights were on, the ceiling fan was going, and it was a fairly cold night. She couldn't figure out why he would do this, because what she originally claimed was the door was wide open, and she came up to the door, and on the couch, this guy sleeping was naked from the waist down, and she could see everything. And she took a video of that, what she could see from the door, and as she's walking away to the sidewalk, she left the door wide open, and you can kind of see the guy in the distance through the door. And she said something to the effect of, using more colorful words, "This is really messed up," and left him. Door wide open and everything. Now, I'm just going to stop here for a moment. What if this guy had a medical condition? Maybe he needed medical attention. Maybe it was some self-harm thing. Who knows? She didn't check on him. She didn't try to cover him. She didn't call an ambulance or even the police at the time. She just made some assumptions. And she posted that video, and literally almost instantaneously had well over 30 million views. And I guess the comment section was just supporting her, this guy's crazy. And essentially she doxed him because she stated his name, showed his address, everything about this guy. And really, it was the follow-up videos that she did after that, which tells all. Apparently, after she uploaded this video, TikTok had taken down the video, gave her a strike. She posted a naked man. on her video. And she reposted it. I believe this time she was kind enough to blur out his privates, and it got taken down as well. So she had 2 strikes. Now, in her follow-up videos to this, she then starts to claim that she is a victim of sexual assault. She contacted DoorDash and said that she's a victim of sexual assault. And I think that was like 4 or 5 hours after the fact. I think about 12 hours after the fact, after people who were following her for some reason said she should call the police. So about 12 hours after, she called the police. And throughout this whole thing, she's ranting about how her account for her DoorDash was deactivated. She's banned. And how TikTok is threatening to ban her, and how the police are doing nothing about it. She's ranting on, and you can see in her eyes, bat poo crazy. Absolutely. You see this a mile away. And she's claiming to be a victim of everything. And she keeps saying, just remember, I am the victim of, in her words, SA. Well, here's the thing. The police did investigate and charged her. So far, there's only 2 charges, 2 felony charges. In Canada, there would be indictable offenses. So she has so far 2 pending felony charges. Because when they investigated the whole thing, the security camera showed a whole different story. She went to the door with the food, knocked on the door. Keep in mind, I'm going to remind you of this. She was supposed to just leave the food outside the door, like on the step. That's it. She knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, turned the knob, and it just happened to be unlocked, and she went in. She goes back outside now, leaving the door wide open, and begins filming. And this is where she claims that when she came to the house, the door was wide open. And keep in mind, when she left the door wide open. This guy was passed out drunk on the couch. For some reason, he had his bottoms off. And this is why she's now, so far, charged with 2 felonies. And chances are they might find more things to charge her with. Not to mention that she could be sued, but that's a whole different thing. And this bat poo crazy female is convinced that she is the victim. Now, there's a couple of giveaways of why she did what she did. She took advantage of this man for fame and fortune, because one of the videos, she was really mad that video had over 30 million views, and she's not getting paid for that, and that's what really got her angry. She posted that, she staged the whole thing, claiming that the guy had staged it, but she's the one that actually staged it to make money. And then the second reason, there's others giveaways, but the second thing was she wanted to destroy this guy's life, basically. So she doxed him, gave the name, address, everything in the video to destroy this guy's life. That was her 2 main concerns, why she did what she did. All she had to do was leave the food on the step. We see this type of thing with everyone in today's world being all about me, self-centered, and being narcissistic. I hate using that word because it's been used too much. But everything revolves around them. She took advantage of this guy. He was passed out drunk. The police confirmed that. The police investigated. and the security camera tells all. Now, what is the point of all this? If I'm not really want to talk about her, is that we see a trend because of feminism. Now, I've said in videos over the years, feminism is really, now I gotta stop here for a second. I'm setting aside the real reason why feminism was introduced into society. And there's a man who had passed away long ago by the name of Aaron Russo, and he talks about his friend Nick Rockefeller and everything else and the truth about feminism. Let's set that aside. I'm just going to go with, along with the mainstream concept of feminism. What feminism is really about is the beta and omega females wanting equality with the alpha females. That's what it really boils down to. We see the same type of thing now with the incel movement for many years, where you have the beta and omega males wanting equality with the alpha males. And they're squawking just as loud as these feminist females. But because of feminism, it turned into the hatred of men. And the whole foundation of feminism is based on falsehoods with equality and everything else. And I've discussed this over the years, but there's many others far more knowledgeable about this topic than I, who've been discussing this for a long time, and I've highlighted them as well over the years. Let's just set that aside for a sec. Let's go back to the vilification of men. And I'm not going to even get into the downfall of the Western civilization because of feminism. That's a whole different topic that I've discussed before. But what we've seen beginning maybe about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, is how women would walk down the street, for example, casually. Maybe they'll try it themselves or have a friend behind them filming and trying to get a shot of a man just looking over at her as she passes and saying, look how disgusting men are. Women do these things just as much as men, if not more, but I digress. But that wasn't good enough. Whether it be on the street, on a bus, or even on a subway, women were doing these things. And then you had all this nonsense about manspreading and everything else and trying to destroy men's lives. That wasn't good enough. So now there was a huge trend that began where women would go into the gym. And most time in any of these scenarios, women are, for all intents and purposes, naked. Even their spandex, you could see as a descriptive nook and cranny. There's nothing left to the imagination. And they would go into a gym, film themselves working out, and then if some guy in the background just happens to glance over, they would post that clip, mock him, dox him, do everything to destroy him as some sort of pervert. But here's the thing now. Now, that was more of a setup, trying to set men up, because, of course, if you have a nice body and you basically have body paint, and here's the thing, there have been women who have gone into the gyms just with body paint, making it look like they're wearing spandex and being called out for it. But when you go into that, you're staging it. Somebody's going to look. It could be a woman look, but they wouldn't show women looking. They would just show, obviously, the men, because they want to vilify men. But now we see a new trend starting where they're not trying to set men up, but they're creating, like this former female DoorDash delivery person, going in and creating an event, taking advantage of men ironically claiming that they're the ones being taken advantage of, but whatever, and doing this to men. She wanted to profit on taking advantage of this man who was passed out and ruin his life at the same time. Talk about an ego power trip. It's amazing what this world has come to. I'm not saying that in a good way. So that was my point. It has been my point, is we see how men have been vilified more and more to the point where it's gone beyond trying to capture a man looking to staging a man looking to now going into his home and taking advantage of a situation. And what's really interesting is the comment section of these videos where women are claiming that, you know, this is harmful to women who actually, like myself, survived sexual assault. Well, for one thing, more than 75% of claims are false. So as I'm scrolling through these silly comments, I'm just like, I wonder how many of these are false. There's another point to all this that's being missed. I'm going to get to in a moment. This whole comment section thing is, I'm kind of lost for words. It's not often I'm lost for words, but I'm kind of lost for words. Because regardless of the real victim here, the man, all anyone is doing is talking about her. Whether in support of her because they're also bat poo crazy, or talking about her one way or another. But the man, the victim, is just, again, what's just kind of there in the background, like a part of the scenery, I guess. No pun intended, literally. This guy was accused of sexual assault, was doxxed, and him being naked, partly, plastered all around the world. And how many people took screenshots and downloaded that video, and who knows how many copies there are of that. And yes, this former employee there has so far to date 2 felonies, could be more coming, but this guy's life is ruined for being in his own house. He didn't do anything. And before I wrap this up, I'm going to share a couple of stories real quick. But before I get into that, this does remind me, perhaps this is what I'm about to say now, in these couple stories hit home for me, because this guy was in his own home, just minding his own business, passed out, drunk, and he still had his life destroyed. Now, when I was working at the nonprofit mental health organization, I was just minding my own business. My first mistake was opening my mouth, telling Alberta Health Services what I knew about the sexual abuse, trafficking, these vulnerable women that attended that organization as members or clients, whatever you want to call them. One day, minding my own business at work, and there's a false allegation against me and another male co-worker. And no one talked to me about it. And that's a whole different tangent. So as a man, you could be at work minding your own business, or you could be at home minding your own business. And what do you have? You have women destroying a man's life. Now, in my case, there was someone behind that false allegation, but looking at it on its face, for example, still a false allegation by a female. Or not by her directly, through a third party. Anyway, about the few stories I want to share is I remember in my younger years when I was bodybuilding and training and everything else, and I would go, here's one example, to the sunbeds, the tanning salon. In the little rooms that you're in, the walls don't go all the way up. You know, they go up high enough that no one can peek over, you know, maybe about 8-9 feet, whatever it was. So you can hear when the machine's on and off. And I remember a few times I get out, I have nothing on. I get my towels, I just want to, you know, wipe away the sweat and everything. And the female employees, because they're always female employees, you don't ever see a male employee at these places, open the door because there's no locks on the door. And just, you know, hey, how long are you going to be? You know, and just start trying to talk. Meanwhile, I'm standing there naked and this is completely fine. Now imagine the tables turned, whether it be in the story I just shared about myself or this guy in his home and this former female employee. Imagine the tables were turned. If it was a guy DoorDasher, he wouldn't even see trial. Society would have lynched him, literally. If the tables were turned and I walked in on a woman getting out of a tanning bed and started talking, I'd be in prison. And I've had a lot of times in my life where women would do that type of thing to me, in tanning beds to wherever. So I know what that's like, but in society there's nothing you can do about it. And I've shared even the story when I was in a recovery room of a hospital. I had emergency surgery on one of my limbs that got badly damaged. And there was 5 to 6 female nurses that did sexually assault me. And I discussed this in some depth. And I tried to pursue some sort of justice for on and off for about 10 years. I remember one time, one of the cops got pissed off at me, excuse my language, and said, why would you want to do that to people who help people? I was told if I came back, that they would charge me with something. So this is where this story of this former DoorDash person kind of I can relate to from the guy's perspective. But no one's really talking about him. They're only talking about her. She should be listed as a sex offender. She should have more charges, and there's chances are there could be more charges. And she should get the full brunt of consequences. If nothing else, to set an example. Because when women do these things, most of the time, there's no repercussions. And the few times that they do, it's far less than what a man would get. Meanwhile, women commit these types of acts and other acts at far greater rates than men. And I've shown that as well. Double standard in society. Vilify men to the point now you can't even be in your own home or at work even. Things to think about. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share.
I'm the victim! Remember? I'm the victim! I'm the victim! I'm the victim! Remember? I'm the victim! I'm the victim! I'm the victim! Remember? I'm the victim! I'm the victim!
Just remember, I was one man against many. Fighting a losing battle, but I still fought to the end.
That means press on. That means endure. That means God cannot fail, and you're not going to give up. That's not an option. Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.